Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to Gabon 24. On this interview, we are in the occasion of the first conference of women judges organized in Libreville, Gabon, in this magnificent building of the Constitutional Court. And we are with Madame Mhlantla. She's the judge of the Constitutional Court of South Africa. Welcome, Madame.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
How do you feel since you've been here in Libreville?
Well, we've had a very welcoming reception since we arrived on Friday. The members of this court, from the president of the court, Madame Boranchua, have been very, very welcoming, and they've made our stay quite a welcome one.
This is the very first time that women judges in Africa have the occasion to meet together and to exchange between themselves on problematics related to constitutional issues. How do you feel? What is your first impression?
Well, the judges that are here come from the various jurisdictions in Africa. They are fairly senior judges. We have presidents of the other constitutional courts who are here, a former president of the Constitutional Court, and senior judges from the various jurisdictions. So it's quite a very good thing to interact with senior colleagues from the other jurisdictions.
And what are the different topics that you are tackling?
Well, we've dealt with the entry point, how one can become a judge, what are the problems or challenges when it comes to the appointment of judges, in particular women judges. Once they are in, what one should do, that is now the question of training, how do you support them, all those challenges that are there. So those are some of the things that we are dealing with. And then we are sharing our own experiences. Some jurisdictions, you'll find that they are fairly in a better position than other jurisdictions. For instance, there's a colleague who mentioned to us that in her court, or in her country, she's the only female judge on the Constitutional Court. Where I come from, there are 11 judges, and there are 4 women judges, and one of them is the Deputy Chief Justice. So you find that in one jurisdiction, they've done better, and another, they are still struggling. And I was quite impressed by this, by the Gabon Constitutional Court, where there are 4 women judges out of 9. That is a very, it's a very good start. It's, you know, it's almost 50% basically. So that is quite impressive.
Does the example of Gabon gives you, I mean, the challenge when you go back to South Africa to try to see how the number of judges can increase, women judges can increase there?
Yes, it's a challenge, and it's also something that when you see you become hopeful that also in your country this is something that can be done. In our country, we are still lagging behind in the sense that there are about 4 or 5 countries where there are women judges who are actually the heads of the court, who are chief justices or presidents of the court. We have not reached that stage. We don't have a woman chief justice in our court. Last year, we were fortunate that we now have a deputy chief justice who happens to be a woman who was appointed. So we are in the right direction. Hopefully one day there will be a woman chief justice. So when you go around the other countries and you see these things happening, you become hopeful that indeed this is something that can happen. And normally people would say, you know, a woman will not be able to do this. But then you see people actually doing the work, and you then know that it's possible. And what they are saying is in fact not so. It's not true.
Is it the judicial atmosphere favorable for women, particularly in your country, South Africa?
Well, compared to some of the stories that I've heard, I would say it is favorable. For instance, in our country, we have the judiciary. You start from the district level of magistrates, and in the magistrates court, then you move to the regional court, And then that is now the magistrate section. And then if you move to the other side where judges now are appointed and work in the courts, you have the ranks of the High Court, and we have 9 divisions of the High Court. For each province. I'm not sure what, maybe a province here would be a state, I'm not sure, but we have 9 High Courts. Then we have the Appeal Court, which we call the Supreme Court of Appeal, and then our court where I serve, which is the highest court in the land, the Constitutional Court. We have women in all these courts. For instance, if I were to give you the stats of women judges in South Africa, or judges as a whole, we have 249 judges in South Africa currently. Out of that number, 113 are women judges.
Yeah, that's important.
That counts to about 45% roughly of women judges in South Africa. So that's a good start. And if, I mean, compared to what I had, where you had 1 judge or, you know, a couple of judges, we are getting there. And when you look at the magistrates level, we have more women judges. The only problem that we have is the senior leadership positions. That's where one needs to look at. There, we may be lacking here and there. As I said, we have the Deputy Chief Justice now. There's a vacancy of the post of the President of the Supreme Court of Appeal, which was previously occupied by the current Deputy Chief Justice. That has been advertised. In fact, a candidate was interviewed. We're waiting for the President to decide on that position. Fortunately, the candidate that was interviewed was a woman, so we're hoping that she will be appointed. And then in the other divisions of the court, we have the 9 divisions. Out of the 9, 5 are deputy presidents, women deputy presidents. 2 are presidents of those courts, women presidents. So we do have, but possibly if we could have more.
And South African traditions against the women who are exercising like judges, are these traditions favorable for women to go to school, to allow the parliament and study to become judges?
Well, what happens in South Africa, you go to varsity to become an attorney. That's basically, you go to varsity to do your law degree. You decide whether you want to be an attorney or an advocate. You practice for a number of years. Minimum, it should be, I think it's 10 years. And if you are fit and proper, there is a JSC, a Judicial Service Commission, that actually interviews those people that have been nominated to become judges. And if you are fit and proper, you are qualified, fit and proper, you meet all the criteria that are set out there, which is there's race, there's gender, and the representation. If you meet those criteria, then you are appointed as a judge. You would have practiced, so you come in with the experience of having been in practice, whether as an advocate or as an attorney. So that counts in your favor. Your peers would have said something about you. You would have, hopefully, most of the time, you get an opportunity to act as a judge before you are appointed, almost like an in-service training, you know, where you are given an opportunity to show how you can do the work. And if you've done very well, that also counts in your favor, then you are appointed. After appointment, we have an institute that is called the South African Judicial Education Institute. It is there to assist judges and magistrates throughout their career. They normally have courses, you know, webinars, courses. It could be on environmental law or on tax law, whatever. It's an ongoing judicial education program, because you can't say you know everything just because you become a judge. The law changes, so you have to keep up with everything that is taking place. So that's what they do. And then what they also do, because we know that at times women don't get the opportunities. Women struggle to even get the work at times, because one will say, no, she has children, she's not always available. I'd rather go to a male advocate to do the work, all those things. So you need to support women. And there are various organizations that do that. But from the Judicial Institute, we have what we call a program for aspirant judges. So senior attorneys or senior advocates that wish to become judges one day, they go through that program. You apply, you submit your CV with all the details, and if you are taken, then they take you through that program so that you can have an idea what you are going to be ending up in, how to write judgments, how to conduct yourself, the ethics program, you go through that. And also there is one now, because that one is broader, anyone can apply, but we have one for women in particular.
Okay, but apart from the support that the government has to bring to women in their career, do you think that boys and girls in South Africa have the same chances to succeed when they are still at school?
Yes, because I would say that if I were to give you my example.
Yes, based on your own experience.
Having been a boy or a girl way back in the early 80s or 70s, when we had the apartheid regime, I could never have dreamed of becoming a judge at that stage. There was probably, I mean, in the 80s, we did not even have a black judge, male or female. Now, for me, it was never something that I could think of. But now, for a boy who was born after 1994, a lot has changed. That child can dream, can actually say to you, I want to be a judge one day, and that is possible. And maybe at an early stage, that child will not be able to interact with the relevant people. But once you get to matric stage, there are mentoring programs. Some people visit the schools. And for instance, in our court, we have a program that is called a clerkship program, where we invite newly qualified lawyers, that is someone who's just finished your studies at varsity with an LLB or master's, to apply for a one-year program to be a law clerk for a judge. That's a very good exposure, which will, I mean, that child can brag about that throughout his life, and thereafter he can actually go and work, whether as an advocate or as an attorney, or even in the academic sector. But so we do that. That's one way of doing it. And then there are mentorship programs also that also would assist a young lawyer so that one day that person can eventually find himself or herself on the bench.
Thank you very much, Madam Mhlantla. You are a judge of the Constitutional Court of South Africa. We thank you for having answered our questions.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this interview. Thank you.
Thank you, dear viewers, to have watched us on Gabon 24. We were with Madame Mhlantla. She is a judge at the Constitutional Court of South Africa. Don't forget that we are in the case of the first conference of women judges organized here in Libreville, Gabon. Thanks for watching us.